This is Map Show night, and I'm really excited to be with you. This is the best day of the week, and I trust that you too feel the same way. And just like to say thank you for joining us and supporting us each week on this live show. Tonight is our 113th show, and we've been doing it every single Wednesday for the past 2 years. Recently, we started it on a Thursday night as well, and soon we will be doing it on a Tuesday. And just a short moment ago, Henny and I were talking about introducing a new language, possibly from July, and that'll be exciting. So we want to incorporate many languages, and at least once a month to start with, we'll have a different language show, and we'd love you to let us know what language would you like to hear Map for Life being talked about in a map show like tonight. Of course, today we are continuing our series, the Mapped series, and if anybody knows us, we will understand that map means to make a purposeful difference. It ties in with our mandate, which is to map the world. And so when the world is mapped, MAPD, we have achieved our objective. And we've talked about a number of different things over this time. One of the sessions, we talked about the fact that you have been mandated, anointed, provisioned, and destined or deployed for such a time as this. We talked about our MAP Club, which is all about mentorship, accountability, preparation, and diligence. Last week, we spoke about the fact that we have a methodology, an approach, a philosophy, or as Rian likes to call it, a paradigm, and a domain. And so this evening, I'm going to be looking at our methodology and focusing on the mapped component of our methodology. And as we share that this evening, please feel free to send your questions in. You might have a insight, perhaps. Henny is going to take a look at those questions that you post online, and he will most certainly post, or rather ask those questions of me, and I trust that I'll be able to answer them well. If I can't, I'm going to ask Henny what the answer is, or we'll come back to you. Maybe you have the answer. So tonight, what does it mean to have a methodology that is mapped? Well, firstly, our methodology is modular in nature. So when you come to learn the Map for Life methodology, you'll notice that we teach you a number of different clearly defined steps. The first step that we talk about is the position, or as we say, establish your position. The second module is to determine your destination. Where are you going? The third, prepare your plan, and the fourth is to take meaningful action. There are many other components as well that we talk about, and each of them are modular. So when we're talking about establishing your position, inside that process, we have modules that deal specifically with finding new habits that you want to implement. And so it's all about establishing a balanced life and then finding ways to improve your balance. These are standalone modules. And we can teach our methodology in small modules, and we can also teach it in a way that's beneficial to people who have a particular need at a specific point in time. So if you want to help people to do vision boarding, we can do a module just on vision boarding. If you want to know how to set a goal or verify that your goals are the right ones, we have a module to deal with that. So Map for Life is modular. It means it's easy to learn, easy to teach, easy to coach others. And we'd love to have you engage with us in that way. Besides being modular, the really exciting thing about the Map for Life methodology is it is adaptable. It is adaptable. That means that not only is it a structured method that we use, but it is flexible enough to adapt to any application. So if you just think about the concept of MAP, which means Master Action Plan, if you want to move from where you are to where you want to be, the one thing that you need is a clearly defined, written, documented plan, which we call a Master Action Plan or MAP. Everything. It doesn't matter whether you're in parenting, whether you're running the comrades, like one of our members just did at the age of 65 for the first time. Shout out to Dr. Kankam, all the way from Ghana. And he made or set himself a goal and ran and completed the Comrades Marathon, his very first one at the age of 65. For those of you who run the Comrades or have run it, or for those who don't know what the Comrades is, it's a bunch of crazy people running from early in the morning till late at night. I think they run something like 89 kilometers. Forgive me if I've got it wrong, but it's a long way. And to do that at the age of 65 for the first time, I say, man, fantastic. How did he do it? He used the Map for Life methodology. He adapted it to the goal that he had. So it doesn't matter whether you're in business, whether you're in ministry, whether you're just wanting to focus on your own life and get that sorted and directed, if you have big financial goals, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to start, Map for Life can be adapted to meet that specific need. So when we engage with people, we're not there to sell them on a Map for Life tool. We're there to understand what is your need. And when we understand what your need is, we have the tool that is adaptable to meet your need. We're not going to shove our program onto you. We first want to understand what your need is. And to our trainers and coaches, remember that when you're out there, just listen to people's needs. People are talking about their needs all the time. The way they do that is they complain. So when they start complaining, listen carefully, hear what the need is, understand the problem, and then provide the solution. Because Map for Life can be adapted. Why? Because everything has a current position. It has a future destination. It needs a plan to join those two places, and then meaningful action needs to happen. Map for Life does exactly that. So adaptability is a very important aspect of our map methodology. The third letter, of course, you already know that, it's the letter P, and that talks about the fact that it's practical. So practical. I spent years and years going to seminars, reading books, being inspired by people. Today it's so easy. You just click on YouTube and you can watch the top speaker in the world anywhere. From anywhere, anytime. But back in the early 90s, when I was doing this kind of stuff, I had to travel sometimes thousands of kilometers to get to a place where I could listen to somebody who had value to implant in my life. And I went to many, many seminars, at least one a quarter. And I would attend these and I would listen. I would be inspired. I would be motivated. I would leave that place. I would feel like I was in cloud 9. But I would get back home, and within a week, a month, maybe a little bit longer, I would be back into the same routine as before. Why? Because I wasn't provided with the practical tools to implement what I was being taught. In Map for Life, that is not what we want to be. We don't want to be an organization. Did I use the word organization? Forgive me. We don't want to be a group of people that are trying to motivate and pump up flat tires, get people inspired and not equip them. We want to empower you to implement some fundamental basics that are going to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Dr. Miles Monroe, when he looked at the Map for Life methodology, he made this statement. He said it's a tried and proven methodology. And at the time, I didn't believe him. But now, 24 years down the road, I can tell you it is tried and proven. There are many testimonies. And the reason that Map for Life has helped so many people is because it's practical. You can pick up a pen and you can begin to empty out the desires of your heart on paper and begin to filter through that process and pick out the best things for you, the things that are going to give your life meaning, that are going to enable you to have an impact in the way that you were designed to live. We're not here to get something, we're here to give something. Asking people, what do you want out of life, is the wrong question. We've got to ask people, why are you here? What have you come to do? How are you going to contribute to this world? How are you going to make it a better place? I think that's important. So Map for Life is extremely practical, and don't we need practical tools today? Just earlier, on Henny, who's going to be joining me in a short moment, was testing one of our new tools. It's an online launchpad, which is going to enable you to go through the map process and begin to implement it. And so on one of our talks in the coming weeks, we're going to spend some time talking about it, maybe walking you through it and share it with you so that you can begin to use it wherever you might be, wherever you are, because it's for anyone, anywhere, or should I say it's for everyone, everywhere. It's extremely practical, and now you can even do it online, which we're really excited about. And then finally, Map for Life is dynamic. What do I mean by that? I mean that life is constantly changing. Things are, new inventions are coming our way. New technology comes across our path. I know there are already people on the planet that are doing things that are necessary for Map for Life to achieve its mandate. And we're going to cross those paths are going to cross at some point. And what they bring might be a new technology. It may be a new way of doing the tried and proven process. And that's what I mean about being dynamic. We will constantly change, constantly improve, constantly sharpen what we do. And so these four elements, modular, means we can package it in a way that meets a specific need, be it small or whether it's for the complete program. We can adapt it to whatever world you operate in, whatever your dreams and goals are. Map for Life can be adapted to work with that. You are the expert in your field. We provide the expertise in the methodology. It's practical, so you're not going to just be inspired and left hanging. You're going to be ready, equipped, and I would like to say empowered to go and implement what you've learned. And then lastly, it's going to be dynamic. It's going to be changing and improving with your input. Isn't that amazing? You're going to be helping to make this better, because it's the user who at the end of the day gives the best advice on how a tool can be more practical. Thank you so much for listening to this MAP series. This was part 5, and it was about the methodology. The next time we talk about on the next MAP series item, will be focusing on our approach, and I've got some exciting things to share with you there. Please share your questions, your comments, your insights, anything that you would like to know about this process, and Henny and I are going to join you in just a few seconds after we've watched this short little commercial. See you then. Henny? Wonderful to have you joining tonight, and I'm sure that that you are a man on fire. At least it looks like that from where I'm
It looks
sitting
like
right.
it. It's my warmest jacket. It's cold here. Good evening,
Great
everybody.
to have you. Go ahead.
Uh,
I'd like to. I'd like you just to quickly, maybe just share something of a highlight from your day today, from a map perspective.
I think Map for Life for me is a lifestyle and something you need to follow. But it's also something that can excite people. And I think the most exciting thing that happened to me is the launch pad that I tested today. It is such a easy to use but straightforward and structured process that you follow that you can't not be hooked on it. It is something that should be exciting you so much. So yeah, that was my highlight for this week so far. It was really awesome. I think the next highlight is tomorrow morning when I eat the next Map Cafe.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, and maybe just while you say that, perhaps some people need to know what a map cafe is. Um, just share some information about a map cafe and what it comprises. Maybe you can invite some people to join us tomorrow morning.
Yes, I can. All righty. Before I start, good evening, Quentin and Gustav. Nice to have you guys aboard. If there's anybody else, please post. I'd like to greet you by name. So, Map for Life has got a theme for the year that's called leadership. And I see everybody's on the leadership bandwagon and everybody's got their ideas of what leadership should be. What I really like about our theme on leadership is really you are the leader, but you need to sort yourself out. You need to get yourself organized to be a leader. And we do that with weekly discussions or gems, as we call them. And every gem has got a different angle on leadership or some of the skills that you need as a good leader. And what we do in the Map Cafe is really talk around that. We get insights around all the wonderful things that people see in exactly the same gym. I usually say to people, it's three paragraphs and a question, but two or three people can speak for an hour on it when we start unpacking it. And I think as part of the unpacking process, what also happens is we start hearing challenges that people got, and I'm calling them challenges, but they're not necessarily challenges, but it is just things that people not seeing a way around right now. um, and I think what is nice is we get insights from people saying, well, I would do this, I would try that. I think last week in one of in our cafe, one of the gentlemen there, and I think he's on this call, maybe got some insights as well to say, how do I solve something like that? So for me, it's almost like Map for Life has got the methodology, you've got the beginning, the end, and you've got the plan, and you've got the road. But on this road of taking action, you sometimes need to fill up with fuel. Otherwise, the car would go and stand still. Map cafes are that fuel. It fills you up every week so that you've got enough juice to go for another week at least.
I like that term, Hennies, because for me, I wish we were sitting in the same room so we could talk across a table. It would be a nice way to maybe in the future we will have these map shows actually done in a studio where we talk across the table. That could be quite exciting, a little different. Um, for me, the highlight of my day is the start of my day, because my day starts with the first Map Cafe at 6 a.m. And it's just such an amazing experience, because every single Map Cafe provides different perspectives on exactly the same topic. And this week we're talking about stewardship, and it's just been fascinating to see the different insights on that particular topic. And I think maybe Map for Life, in a sense, is helping us to, because that's what one of the highlights was, um, the definition relating to one of the definitions, I should say, because there's many. One of the definitions was the stewardship was actually managing all areas of your life in response to God's love for you. And that was just a different perspective, and it made me realize that stewardship is not just of possessions. Stewardship is in relationship, it's in family, it's in business, it's in all the areas of life, even in the words that we speak, and more importantly, the words that we speak within our head, that inner voice, that self-talk. So stewardship goes a long way, and so I'm learning about something and having insights in a topic that I seldom think about. But because it's this week's focus, I've been fortunate to get huge investment from people all over Africa on that topic. So I really enjoy the MAP Club, and I would encourage people to, those of you who are members, just keep your eyes open. We're going to be taking the MAP Club to a whole new level. We've been providing our services for free for 24 years. Can you imagine, Henny? For 24 years, providing our services for free. And we're going to introduce a paid subscription soon. So for those people who are already part of MAP for Life, just keep your eyes open, because we're going to give you an absolutely unbelievable opportunity to remain a member for next to nothing for the rest of your life. An unchanging fee. I mean, I don't know where you find businesses that do that, but you're going to have a subscription that will remain the same for the rest of your living days. And for some of you, you're saying, "Wow, that's fantastic." For others might be thinking, "Well, that's not much." But of course, we don't know how long we're going to live. We're going to be around for a while. I've just received something, Henny, from the very man that I spoke about a moment ago. So I'm going to put his photograph on the screen. Let me just check if Joshua is okay. I'm sure he is okay with that, because he actually sent the picture through to me. I think it was in response to my. So here's Joshua. You got to imagine this. This is a man. He's 65 years of age. If I'm not mistaken, he's got 4 children that he's put through university. I think 3 of them are engineers, or at least in that field. He's just an amazing person. He's reached that area, that time in his life where he's taking his medical practice into in a new direction. He's learning. Can you believe it? He's studying. He's studying at the age of 65. But besides all those things, he had the energy, the time, the commitment to actually prepare to run this race for the first time. Here's Joshua crossing the finish line. I mean, for me, that's just absolutely amazing. I should have perhaps zoomed into you, Joshua, but that is Joshua, his hands up, and of course he's dressed in the MAP for Life colors, isn't it? Well done, Joshua. Dressed in blue. So, Henny, do we have any questions or comments maybe that
Yes,
some
we
people
do.
have asked?
Yes, we do. Good evening, Mick from Ireland. Nice to have you aboard.
Hey, great, Mick. Nice to have you.
Yeah,
Yes.
Quentin has got a question for us. He says, disciplining oneself is the big challenge. What is the key ingredient to mastering discipline?
Well, people who lack discipline have something else that they're really good at, Quentin. And I think everybody who's listening right now knows exactly what I'm going to say. And that is, people without discipline procrastinate. They're experts. And so procrastination is the second biggest nation other than imagination. So procrastination is a close second. But I was listening to Zig Ziglar a number of years ago, and he was talking about this very question about discipline. And what was interesting is he chose to refer to something that the wise King Solomon recorded. And it was this. It said, people who lack vision perish. People without vision perish. And And, I've heard that statement so many times. It was even, I remember on the 6 o'clock news, there was an American that came here to South Africa. And 6 p.m. on a Thursday evening, they made a declaration that there was once a famous American who said, people without vision shall perish. So I remember that newscast so well. She was mistaken. It was King Solomon. And Zig Ziglar explained that. He said there's another translation of that same proverb that says, people without vision cast off all restraint. And then he went on to say that where there is no vision, there is no discipline. So discipline is a component of vision. When I remember when I started, when Anne and I started dating, I didn't need a reminder to write a letter to her. Yes, we used to write letters back in those days to the young people. Write a letter, seal it in an envelope, put a stamp on, those kind of things. We didn't need somebody to remind. I didn't need somebody to remind me. I needed somebody to remind me to take out the garbage, to do the washing and those kinds of things. But even then, if somebody like Anne was going to be visiting my home, I would make sure I would do all those chores as well, because there was a vision of us being married one day. And that vision produced the discipline necessary to do what I needed to do. And so whenever you find yourself with a discipline a discipline issue where you feel like you're procrastinating, not getting the things done that you should, maybe distracted by many other things, just go and dust off your vision board and ask yourself the question, is this vision really the light that I've seen, or is it the television that has been telling me that I should have this kind of vision? Because many of the things that we pursue in life are what other people are telling us to do. But if we catch our vision, not watch the television, but if we catch a vision, in other words, we have a revelation that connects with the desires of our heart, I believe that will produce the discipline necessary for us to follow through. But that's also a strength of character issue. Now, somebody said that strength of character is the ability to follow through on a decision that you've made after the mood in which you've made it has left you. So the mood, the feeling, the emotion connected with the vision is important to maintain the discipline. How do we do that? We keep looking at that vision board, imagining what other people are going to experience as a result of that vision being achieved, and that's going to inspire us to have the discipline to do the daily tasks necessary to make that vision a reality. Maybe I've belabored that point a bit, but Henny, perhaps you want to contribute there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The vision needs to be there, and I mean the 7 whys for me also comes into place there. Somebody once told me that if you want to find out exactly what you need to do, you need to ask yourself the question why 7 times. So, as an example, I want to be a rugby player. Why? You're going to have a reason for it, and if you come up with an answer, you're going to why that answer again. What does Rian say? You wire to death. So you're going to do it for 7 times, but then you know exactly what the real reason is for you doing that. What I found easy to do is discipline in my mind is almost a muscle. It is something that you can train, that you can make stronger and stronger. And the way that I would do that is by linking habits to it. So I've got a victory hour every morning. So I get up at 5, between 5 and 6. I go through a standard routine every morning. And I know it's cold right now, but I don't feel the cold until I finish it. So by 6 o'clock, I can feel that it was cold in the morning. It is a habit. So it's not a discipline for me anymore. That muscle called discipline is changed into a habit. I get up, I do what I need to do. I get myself geared and I'm ready for the day. And the Thursday is even nicer because as soon as I'm ready for the day, I actually can join the MAP Cafe as well. So I think that's the key ingredient for me is to say discipline is a muscle that once it becomes strong and stronger than it should be, it turns into a habit. Once it's a habit, it's so much easier to get to that vision.
Henny, I've collected one of the first things that I began as an engineer. Oh, you won't believe this. My first big step as an engineer was receiving the engineering news. It was a newspaper that the company that I worked for subscribed to, and so my first week as an engineer, the engineering news arrived on my desk, and I found inside there a treasure you won't believe. There were quotes everywhere in this newspaper. So what I did was I took a book. I'll show you something like this, one of these kind of books, and I got a scissors and I cut out these quotes in the newspaper. And that was the beginning of these books here, power quotes. And I collected quotes. And one of the quotes that I remembered distinctly was, and I can't remember the name of the person who shared this quote, but they said, discipline is the chore that sets me free to fly. Discipline is the chore that sets me free to fly. And I've never forgotten that, because it was, it just took, it was something like, it's a necessary thing that you need to do. But if you do it, like you're talking about the habit, it's going to give you the freedom that you desire. And as we were talking, I was thinking about that example. I've used it before on one of our sessions of two guys sitting in a quarry. It must have been in Egypt. No, it couldn't have been. It was probably in Europe somewhere, where they build these big cathedrals. And they were both chipping away at sandstone, making bricks. And an observer came up and said, "Hey," to the one guy, "what are you doing?" And he looked up angrily and said, "Can't you see I'm making bricks?" And he went to the guy's neighbor and asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm building a cathedral." And both of them were busy with the same task. One saw it as a chore, something that they disliked doing. The other person understood why he was doing it. And for that person, it gave him joy, and he was excited because he had a vision beyond the task. And so it's important for us to realize the motivation, the inspiration, the emotion attached with something is on the vision itself. It's a hope for the future. The task is where it's easy to become distracted and ill-disciplined if that is your focus. You need to keep the eye on the ball, as they say. You need to keep your eye on the vision. And if you do, then things will happen. Here's an interesting. Sorry, I see one of our participants is into martial arts, and I just want to just it's just triggered something. He's not said anything, but just by the mere fact that he's part of this, because I used to be involved in martial arts when I was from the age of 11 to about the age of 26, 25, 26, and I used to participate in it's a contact sport, but we weren't into the contact so much, but we did have fights, and we did get injuries and those kind of things. But what I found very interesting is that in order for me to be effective in what I was doing, to be able to defend myself and to be able to attack when necessary. It sounds odd talking about this on a map show. There was one place that I needed to look. And Henny, all I had to do was to look directly in my opponent's eyes. If I looked anywhere else, if I looked at his feet, if I looked at his hands, if I looked somewhere else, I would be disadvantaged. I kept my eye absolutely focused in his vision. And I could tell before he moved a muscle what he was going to do. But if I took my eye off his vision, what he was looking at, in other words, I would be at a disadvantage. And that just kind of maybe puts it into a different perspective, the importance of vision. Sorry, I interjected there. You go ahead.
No problem. Yeah. So just to add to what you were saying as well, and I think mindset is also very important. If I've got my mindset on the vision, it's better. I think in one of the Tony Robbins books that I read, he also mentions this, where he says there was an earthquake somewhere in Texas or something, and apparently traffic was really at a standstill.
Yeah.
And the media was there as well, and this guy with a mic ran up to a guy to the car and said, so what you saying today this morning? And he greeted the person, and he says, well, I'm stuck in traffic for 3 hours again. It's such a waste of time, etc., etc. And he walked to the car right behind it, and there was a dude sitting there, and he said, I'm geared for this. I've got a flask. I've got my, I think in that days I still had CDs. I had my CD where I'm going to learn Italian in the car. I've got 3 hours that I was blessed with that I can actually spend productive. So once again, same scenario, different mindset. It's a question of what do you focus on that I think makes the bigger difference. And then adding on to your vision board, my definition of a vision board is really a preview of your future. You just see what things are going to look like in a few years based on your decision board. And I think, well, as part of my victory hour every morning, I've got my vision board open and I look at it and I sort of close my eyes and feel myself in that. I think you get to the point where it becomes second nature. You start living it. And when you get to that point, there's nothing really that's going to stop you. It just happens that preview almost becomes the reality. I'm not watching the show. I'm in the show right now, and the show is called my life full of purpose.
You talked about, you gave me a P there, preview. We're talking about vision board, and I was just, straight away my mind started running into the M's, A's, and so on. And I was thinking about in the context of the vision. That vision board that you put up there is literally your master plan. Not only is it your master plan, it's actually your assistant. It is there. It's assisting you to move towards that vision. And it needs to be seen like that. People who are trying to go into the future without a vision board, without a clear picture of what they are moving towards, are lacking a really valuable assistant. And then that word preview is such an incredible word. So we're going to use that, Henny. So your vision board is your preview of the future. And then the third letter, the fourth letter, the letter D. What is letter D? I had a very specific word for that. Yes, this is where the emotion comes in. It's a reflection of your desires. And so it's not only is it a preview of the future, but it's a reflection of your desires that you have. And if those desires are heart aligned, not head aligned or other people aligned or to impress others, if it's heart aligned, I think then we've got a great vision. So maybe we can have a vision board that's mapped as well. I'll think a bit more about that process. But definitely the word preview is going to be in there, Henny. It's your preview of the future. Maybe you can just check there what Mick has said, because I had such a great discussion with Mick a couple of weeks back. Such valuable insight into, the why of doing something. And he was talking about the tasks that so many people get focused on and don't understand the reason they're doing the task. And it's the why that's so important. So Mick, thank you so much for that valuable discussion that we recorded.
So you were talking about somebody that loves martial arts as well. He's just come and told us so Mick is also into martial arts. He shares a Bruce Lee quote on discipline with us. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times, which is so true. That is discipline, making sure that I focus and I get one thing right before I move to the next one.
Henny, I had the most interesting experience. Something that I've heard people talk about. But I went to go and watch a practice session, a training session. And just by the way, I will just throw this in. If somebody's training for participation in sport at a competitive level, whether it be in rugby, soccer, football, whatever sport people enjoy watching or participating in, they train. I mean, they train so much more than they actually play on the field in front of the cameras or in front of the audience or the spectators. So practice is so important, and that's why the MAP Club is an important aspect of MAP for Life, is constant practice. And I know that Mick would have attended his MAP Cafe on Tuesday morning in the UK, well, online, but in the UK. So he's an integral part of the group there with Heather King, who's doing an outstanding work in that part of the world. I was talking about visiting this training session, and I sat down on a chair in the spectators section to watch the training that was taking place, because my son had decided to participate, and I can't explain it. My muscles in my body began to twitch every time an instruction was given. My muscles in my body twitched as if they were about to do what the instructor had just given those people. I was fascinated by that. I think if I went back to the military and an officer gave a command, my body would probably twitch in the same way, because you train it over and over and over again. And so, Mick, thanks for bringing this to our attention, because I think practice, here's an interesting quote that many people repeat, and that is, practice makes perfect. And I want to just highlight that is false, because I haven't found a perfect person. Practice only makes improvement. And the more you practice, the more you improve. Carl, my goodness me. Now that is a nice surprise. I haven't spoken to Carl for years. Welcome. I should say welkom, as we say here in this part of the world. Welkom, Karel. Great to have you on board. Lovely to have you here with us this evening. We'd love to hear a question, insight from you as well. So thank you for joining us. Sorry, Annie. It's so nice to connect with people after a long period of time.
Also adding to that perfection is the seasons you go through. So I'm a big fan of athletics. I used to do that at school. So I was a big fan of Usain Bolt, and I followed and I read a lot of what he said and how he does things. So I mean, his life evolved around 4-year plans. There's an Olympic Games coming at a certain point in time. He goes through the year, he practiced between 3 and 6 hours every day for a moment of 10 seconds of glory on the Olympic Games. That's it. So he practices for 3 to 6 hours every day. Yeah, obviously there's seasons, and you do strength, and you do stamina and all those wonderful things. There's different things that you do. But he goes through those 3 to 6 hour training days for about 360 days of the year. There's about 5 days that he gets off, and he does that for 4 years, just to, he goes through the heat. So let's say there's 1, 2, 3 heats, and then the final kind of thing for about 40 seconds. And if I divide it by 2, because he does it 200 as well, it's almost like, and you can go do the maths. Let's say 3 hours. Let's stick to the 3 times 360 times 4. For him to go and spend 40 seconds on the track and people to see what it looks like. I mean, that's
such a good example, and what's so nice about the example, Henny, is that we are actually 3 months into the final 4 years of the current phase of MAP for Life, which is the 4th phase, the 4th 7-year phase. which is the end of the first generation. And when I say first generation cycle, the first 28 years. So we have 4 years from now to the 31st of March 2027. And maybe it's a good time just to think for a moment to say, if we were going to be running the Olympics, in a sense, in your field of purpose and passion, if you were going to be there to demonstrate how you have honed your natural born gifts and talents, and remember, your natural born gifts and talents are what will place you before kings. When you got 4 years from now to hone those, what are they going to look like? I think we should actually think about that. And so we're going to be introducing something interestingly from the 1st of July this year, and that is a 90-day action plan. And so everybody who's part of the MAP Club is actually going to put together their 90-day action plan so that they can be in a position to keep themselves accountable and to keep the momentum. I think you were talking earlier about being stuck. And I'm using a word that you didn't use, but a lot of people find themselves in a place where they are having difficulty seeing the next step or seeing beyond the current step. And when I drive from Pretoria, where Carl lives, to East London, where my siblings and my mother stay, I pass through the mountains. And very often when I pass through these mountains, there is heavy or thick mist. And the one thing that I've learned is that when I get to that place where there's heavy, thick mist, although I can't see into the future as such because of the thick mist, I can see the road in front of me. And all I do is I slow the car down, but I maintain momentum. And I think that is the secret to moving through the misty times in our life. And so if anybody's in that place where they feel life is a little bit misty right now, you can't, you're finding it difficult to see. There's all these words that we are avoiding in Map for Life, which makes our language simple because we've got less words to use. But if you're in that place right now where your vision has become obscured because you're so focused on your situation instead of your destination, maintain momentum. How do we do it? You know, sometimes it's a shuffle to the side. Sometimes it's a step backwards so you can get perspective. Sometimes it's a push forward. And maybe on occasion, it's turning the stumbling block into a stepping stone. And it's that which we always need to remember. Faith is action which reveals provision. Fear is inaction which keeps the provision hidden. And so if you're in that place where you are feeling hopeless, it means that you are in a place of fear, a place of retreat. You've stopped moving. Best thing you can do is just begin to do something. A shuffle, whatever it might be, but just get motion going. And you will see that all of those fears begin to disappear immediately you take a step of faith.
Sure. Good evening, Gordon. Gordon says, greetings. Gary Player said, the more I practice, the luckier I get, which is also true. To add on what you were saying as well, and to add on to Gordon as well, practice is obviously there. Yes, it is something you have to do every day. And the same goes for your habits. The same goes for the brain. Willpower is also a muscle. It's also something that I can exercise. I'm also in the movie like yourself, Glenn, where I go and write down quotes as I read, etc., etc. I don't just cut them out. I'm a little bit more modern now. I just type it on my PC, but I still do it. And the funny thing is, I've got it open on my PC all the time, and it's open in front of me right now. And you were like talking through it, and I'm like reading through. Three of these things actually come to mind immediately based on what you're saying. The first one says, "Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will," which is true. The second one says, "Gifts and talents neglected become curses and sorrows." You spoke about that. And then the last one is, "Pain is a teacher and failure is the highway to success." I think the momentum is very key. Even if I'm on the right track, I need to keep moving, otherwise I'll be run over. Is also true. So the smallest step that I take is still progress. As long as I'm moving in the right direction, as long as I know where I'm supposed to go, uh, it's a mindset to say whatever comes my way is not an obstacle. It's not something that's blocking me. It's an opportunity for me to learn something new. And it was put on my journey for a purpose. I must find out what that purpose is. It will make me stronger. It will equip me to be even better when I get to my purpose.
You know, Henny, I have to just, it's just so nice to have Gordon joining us this evening. Gordon happens to be one of our very early members in Map for Life. And the first training that I did in Durban, and I can assure you it wasn't in the best place of town. I remember driving up to a red brick building, and it just seemed like in the middle of nowhere. I can't even remember the details about the venue itself. But who I do remember is Gordon. Gordon attended that first training. Somebody else who he happens to work with today is Karen Kramer, and she was also participating in training that I did. In fact, she did the first MAPCON ever, and it was the MAPCON for the Toastmasters of District 74, which is quite a number of countries here in Southern Africa. She called it MAPCON 2008. And both of them are or have been working together for an organization called Accelerated Education Enterprise. They have many more than 700 schools around Africa and even into Scandinavia. And just such a joy to have someone like Gordon joining us this evening. And that's 22 years ago, Gordon. Absolutely amazing. And there was somebody that attended that same training, Henny, and this person's name was Anne. She was quite a lot older than Gordon at the time, because she was 65 years of age when she contributed a review to Map for Life. And it was the first time I included reviews in the book. This was in about 2002, 2003. And she wrote this. She said, "Map for Life is like my Bible and my Swiss Army knife. I don't go anywhere without them." And you know, that quote was just so wonderful. And the reason she wrote that was because through Map for Life, she decided to go back to university, back to study. And you know what she decided to go and do? A creative writing program. And the result of that creative writing program was that short little review that she wrote, just jam-packed with great information. So wow. That's 3 stories out of the time when Gordon got involved. And he stepped into Uganda before I did. And what's interesting is, Gordon, I mean, you know this, but the first person to help organize a Map for Life event, and I hope Mick's still listening, the first person to organize a Map for Life event in East Africa, because of course it's very green in East Africa and it's also very green in Ireland. The first person to organize a MAP event was from Uganda. and she joined with Lupita Nyong'o's mother, and many people have heard about Lupita Nyong'o. But Joyce and Dorothy organized a Map for Life training in Kenya. And just recently, I visited Uganda, and while I was there, I found out that Joyce is not only also involved with AEE, Accelerated Education Enterprises, like Gordon and Karen and others, and Lauren, by the way, who's one of our mappers. But she actually leads AEE for East Africa. Can you imagine? And these two stories kind of come together over all this time. And it's just amazing how those kind of things take place. And so, Gordon, we love having you part of Map for Life. And I know great things are going to happen through you.
Wow. Okay. What is interesting for me is it's almost a case, and it's not necessarily the map cafes, but it's the people around the world where we meet, where we start spreading the good news, where we get people to find their purpose. It is amazing how there's so much similarity. When we start talking, there's a lot of people actually sharing the same dream, having the same purpose as we do. And as soon as we start living it and we start making it visible so other people can see it, it sort of makes life a lot easier, because I'm not the only one with that vision. There's a lot of people that want to do the same thing, and it's almost like a river. When it starts raining, there's water coming from everywhere, and a little stream starts to become a very massive river. It just starts picking up momentum, and the more I hear about the stories that you tell and the people that you meet, the more I can see that actually happening.
I don't know if I don't know if it's possible to actually see this on screen. Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that's Anne and myself, and in between us is Faso. Now I've got to tell you the story, because Faso came to South Africa in 2016, and guess what? He was looking for connecting with people over here, and he happened to connect with Peter Darrell. And Peter Darrell invited him to his Map Cafe, which he was running at Sandton City at the time, a physical gathering where people would get every Thursday morning at 7 a.m. They would meet and have breakfast together. And Faso joined that day. And it just happened that I was also visiting Johannesburg, and I joined the group and met Faso for the first time. 2 years later, we did our first launch event in Antananarivo in Madagascar. And through that process, one of the people reached an incredible goal that he had for many years. But somebody else got to hear about Map for Life, and he's been helping, or not helping, he's actually translating our material into Malagasy. And he's not in Madagascar at the moment, but he's working for he's now in Liberia on the west of Africa, and he's working with, I think it's called Mercy Flight Association or something. They basically doctors in the air. They fly to remote places in the bush offering medical services. And he's one of those eye doctors, the guys who do operations on the eyes. And so he's flying around there in West Africa, and at the same time translating material into Malagasy. And it's just fascinating that you pick up these little links. Peter joined in 1999, 2016, he meets Faso. Faso passes it on to someone else. And now we have a group of people in Liberia doing things. So I see our power just arrived, and maybe my room lit up a little bit.
It did. One interesting thing for me as well as that I can mention that sort of makes me feel that the methodology is that much more solid is we've gone through 25 weeks already without gems, but each and every gem so far for me links back to one of the tools in the methodology that I can use. You're talking about stewardship. this week's tool has got a strong link to the Wheel of Life. If I really go and look for that, I can find a link to any of the tools in the methodology, which tells me that it is well thought through, but it is in fact a lifestyle, because it's adaptable. I'm looking at leadership, and I can find leadership in there. I'm dead sure if I go and do something else, I'm gonna be able to map it as well, which tells me that it's adaptable but also practical. I just found that very interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's I think for me, what's really happened over this 24-year period, we talked about tonight about the fact that the methodology is modular, so it can be taught in little block pieces, standalone things. You will find a lot of stuff from that perspective. I mean, you're talking about gems right now. You can literally take the gems that we're discussing and go and give talks just
Yes.
on a gem, So, and they were written for that purpose, was to provide me with easy topics to talk on, because people would ask me to give a talk, and I would sit and think, now what do I talk about? And now the gems are there. I just look up and say, okay, right, I'm going to pick these couple gems and go and speak on them. But we talked about the fact that it's modular, that it's adaptable, that it's practical. And I think the word practical ties in so nicely with what Gordon was saying about Gary Play. The more I practice, the more I practically apply what I have, the better I get at it. And so I think practice is very important. And then lastly, it's dynamic and it changes. And when I say it's dynamic, not only does the tool itself change, but you change. It changes you, if that makes sense.
Yes.
The tool doesn't change. The tool doesn't change you, but you change as a result of using the tool. Because as you use the tool, you learn more about yourself. You identify who you really are, and you can begin to live the life that you've always dreamed of. And I think, and the life that we really truly dream about is a life that is valuable. That is a life of service. It's a life of making other people's lives better. I think that's the true life that we dream of living. And MAP certainly encourages that, but it brings out your best because you are actually writing down your best. Maybe you should just end with a maybe an insight, or you got so many quotes there. They're exciting. I'm glad you read them out. A number of those quotes that you mentioned aren't in these books. So they're new.
Yeah, so good evening, Passmore. Nice to have you on board as well from Zambia. I think I've read it somewhere, and I'm trying to think who it was that said it's the magic is not becoming a millionaire. It is the person that you have to become to get to be a millionaire. And I think sometimes we're so focused, and you have to be focused, but you're so focused on the destination that you forget to enjoy the journey. I think Map for Life, and for me, that dynamic part that you spoke about, Map for Life is going to mold you into exactly the right person that you need to be to actually go and fulfill that purpose that you're aiming for, in a good way. In a good way, it is going to mold you. It is going to change you, because your habits, everything that you do, will have to change to fit in to what you need to do. So my advice is, don't forget to enjoy the journey. It is nice. It is going to be an awesome person that you're turning into. There's nothing wrong with who you are right now. You are awesome. You're going to just become a lot more awesome on your journey to finding your purpose.
And of course, MAP in the MAP Cafe context also means it's a place where you can meet awesome people daily.
Exactly.
So a great place. It's so wonderful to have all of the guys join us this evening, and I'm sure there's people from, as we see, different countries. This is exciting. Henny,
Yes.
we really it's such a joy to be able to talk with you, and also to have people from around Africa and Europe joining us. and elsewhere, please let us know in the comments where you're from. I did say earlier some people to text or WhatsApp us, but in future I will let that message scroll across the screen so that people can do so. It'd be lovely to hear from you, especially if you're watching the recording, to send that through to us. I want to just say to everybody, including you, Jane, from Uganda, I want to just say to all of you that I have a passport. And not just any passport, a maxi passport. I've made provision to travel to many, many places, and I'm ready to travel. My bag is packed. I'm available. If you want myself, I'm sure Henny is probably saying, "Don't forget me, don't forget me."
Pick me.
We are ready. We're ready to come and train wherever the need is, and if you have a need, if you can get a group of people together, if you're passionate about empowering people to live their purpose in life, we have a methodology that we can teach you, we can equip you, we can empower you to be a trainer and coach. We would love to come to your country. All it takes is an invitation and a bit of organization from your side. We're ready. Okay, our passports are ready, our bags are packed. So don't feel like you left out. If we're not in your country, in your city doing something, it's not our fault. Just invite us. And of course, you, Jane, I'm saying you, Jane. By the way, it's Uganda, I'm sure, because the Luganda, the Buganda people speak Luganda, so it must be Uganda. So Jane is there, and she's already booking July. Great, Jane. I'm looking forward to being there because it's cold in South Africa. I'm sure it's warm in Uganda. And I trust that Gordon will join me one day and we travel there together. Hey, Gordon. Okay, I think this is the end of our show. Henny, thank you so much. And remember, guys, every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central African time, that's 5 p.m. in the evening, GMT or Universal Standard Time. Be lovely to have you join us. And why not, if you are already a coach or trainer, engage with us in studio. We'd love to have you with us. It creates a great atmosphere and gives those other perspectives. Thank you so much to everyone sharing your input this evening and asking your questions. It's certainly facilitated a good discussion. Henny, thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, it was nice meeting you all. Have a
good night,
evening.
everyone.
Cheers.
And here's a last word from Miguel from Spain.
Muy buenos días a todos. I am Miguel Sanz from Madrid, Spain. I started using Map for Life back in 2016, where this picture here, where I am with Glen, belonged to that year in the training I did in Pretoria. And you know, there are many talks, many talks out there in internet, in real life, where great speakers tells you that you are unique, that you need to find your purpose, what you need to do in life. You end up out of those talks really happy, but naked, because you have no tools. What's Map for Life? Map for Life gives you the tools to achieve your goals, to be precise, to do all the things you need to do to achieve them. You are unique. Be mapped.